Welcome to Property Guide. This week we're looking at a very serious issue, the issue of corruption. This is the same corruption at local government levels that delays projects, that increases prices, that makes homes that you and I want to buy more unaffordable. It's also corruption that's causing us to question the government's claim on the ease of doing business. And it's corruption, unfortunately, that last week claimed a life as Thane-based developer Suraj Parmar decided to take his own life out of frustration for what was going on in the local system. On the panel with me today, NC National Spokesperson BJP, Madhav Bhandari, Chief Spokesperson of the BJP Maharashtra. We also have Dharmesh Jain, President MCHI, Boman Irani, Secretary at Kredai National, Rohit Gera, Managing Director at Gera Developments. Before we go any further, take a look at the story we're tracking so far.
It was a protest where builders took to the streets and thousands marked it with peace marches and black bands. Across the country in Thane, Pune, Bengaluru and Ghaziabad, builders downed shutters on a day when busy season started and walked as one to mark the memory of the late Suraj Parmar. In his hometown, Thane, 5,000 builders gathered and walked to the Thane Municipal Corporation office, met with the commissioner and handed him a 3-page agenda. They went and put forth a proposal to the Thane Municipal Commissioner where they stressed upon the fact that the ease of doing business was what was needed by the builder to put up a building. The second most important thing that one of the MCHI members pointed out was the fact that they needed the approvals to be speeded up so that the gestation period for the buildings could be reduced in time. Police sources say that Parmar was a victim of corruption and extortion. The late builder had shot himself in the head last Wednesday in a sample flat of his own project. Police officials said he had written down a few names in his suicide letter but later struck them out, fearing harassment to his family. Currently, building construction requires a minimum of 50 clearances from a number of agencies. Builders complained that this process could take up to 3 years, and it was despair over this which allegedly drove Parmar to take his life. Builders are hoping that Parmar's death will not go in vain and will prod the government into speeding up the approval process. Ruchi Deshpande, ET Now, Mumbai.
And that's the story that we're following on Property Guide this week. I want to bring in Shaina and see. The government keeps talking about the ease of doing business. Shaina, can you respond to what's going on right now? Builders across the country complaining that it's just too much and nobody can take this anymore.
Let me please say that the death of even one builder, irrespective of how big or small, in Mr. Parmar's case, if he has been caused this kind of anxiety by any kind of nepotism, it's absolutely unfortunate, and our condolences go out to the family. That being the opening reaction of everyone in our government, I think we need to understand where we're heading and what our Chief Minister his endeavour is. First and foremost, if you take the right to services, here you have an open forum for over 160 sectors to air their complaints, their issues, and if not replied within stipulated time, this permission or the issue that they are bringing up is deemed to be almost granted because the onus lies on us as the government. You asked about the ease of doing business. I would like to state that you have previous governments where everyone knows the kind of anxiety that they had to go through, whether it was the Department of the MOEF or the urban planning, and we have tried to systemize as easy a process as possible. And we would want to ensure that the kind of clearances that were required are limited.
Let me first get in a view from the builders on the panel then on what they feel is going on the ground right now. And then we can get a view from you on what the government is doing. Dharmesh Jain, come in first. We know that this is an ongoing problem. Shaina's right. It's not something that's specific to this government. It's a problem that's existed for decades. And now it needs to be solved. Tell us what's going on the ground. As a builder who's trying to bring in permissions, to trying to complete a project, what are the problems you're facing?
At the outset, I would wish to put it on record that I think this government has taken a lot of positive steps which are trying to address these long-standing issues. As you rightly said, Faye, I think the problem emancipates from years of over-regulation. So it's a sector which we believe can give strategic growth at all levels. One of the key crunch areas is the time taken for permissions.
Bhavan Irani, come in here and tell me this. Is it just that permissions are taking too long, or is there more to it? Because if I'm looking at the list that you handed this morning to the Municipal Commissioner, it says political interference. Explain to us what you mean by political interference.
I would agree with everything that Shaina just said. While everything at the top is really brilliant, it is actually the things that are, how they go down to the bottom that are really, really bad. On the ground, though, it's a whole different situation, right? There is something called the RTI, which is an excellent tool in the hands of the wrong people. It is being misused, and I'll go on record to say it has actually become an industry wherein people are exploiting, little loopholes in the rules. This affects people. Another thing that affected my Thane president, who shot, who took his own life, was the fact that there were too many policies in the pipeline which get promised at one point, and then for whatever reason, halfway through are withdrawn, changed, not brought in the right spirit. Very, very importantly, any policy with real estate anywhere in the world has got to be long-term. We really request the administration to take care of that and give us long-term policy that is very, very clear, and let us go ahead and achieve our goals. We are GDP drivers for you. We are also the second largest employer after agriculture. Please give us our place in...
Let's get Saina to respond to that one by one. Let's first talk about the problem on the ground of political interference with permissions, and of course what Bowman brought up, which is what we call policy volatility here in the stock market, where policy keeps changing and I can't have my business keep turning around to meet that policy. What is the government doing to address those 2 points, Saina?
It's all very well to hear this, but if you have these kind of lacunas in the system, I think it's your moral and social obligation also to expose. If you feel you are being extorted at the bottom level, there are lots of forums where you can even speak about it. You have a chief minister for the first time in Maharashtra that is absolutely non-corrupt and is only thinking of the interest of the state, wants development, wants this kind of low-cost housing. The only problem is clearly we know that there is a bit of a slowdown, and why is it? What are going to be the systems to fight it are all things we're working towards, ensuring that there's a easier clearance and not having to go into this pipeline of 50 clearances for a project. Aple Sarkar, I think, is absolutely the forum that needs to be used. If you feel at the BMC level there are officials who are unnecessarily harassing you, I think people like Dharmesh and Baman must have the guts and the courage of conviction to talk about it so others don't go through it. So I think there are lots of opportunities available. We can keep on finding flaws, but we can find solutions if we want to.
Bhavan, is that enough of a response? Bhavan and Dharmesh, that's an open challenge to you. She said, if you're having problems, there are enough, there's enough room within this government to come up and talk about it. So come up and talk about it and we'll find solutions. Why hasn't that happened up till now?
Well, Shaina is 100% right in saying that the Chief Minister is very, very keen about this. Shaina, I just want to bring to your attention that, what has been held up for a very long time requires a lot of incremental, does not require incremental, but actually very, very major changes to take place. One. Two is, in the public services, I believe people are actually taking it very, very easy and allowing for a certain time to pass before an approval is given, even knowing fully well the approval is right. If this changes, and I'm confident it will change with the leadership I see, and every name you took, whether it was Ajoy Mehta, whether it was Nitin Karir, and whether it's our Honorable Chief Minister, I see great promise. All I want is, can we quicken this? Can we go ahead and give us some major changes to make this happen yesterday, today, or at least by tomorrow?
Right, I'm being told Rohit Gera joins us from Pune. He has something to add as well. Rohit, is the situation similar in Pune? Are you getting enough room to talk to the government to bring up issues that builders are facing?
So, Faye, I think the direction of the government at the top levels is absolutely correct. I think the intent is right, but just changing the policies at the top level isn't going to lead to any kind of a solution which is sustainable in the long run. I think there needs to be a change in the attitude all the way down to the grassroots. I think that it's time that we hold people, all the officers, accountable. And I think the other very important aspect is that we must eliminate discretion. The discretion to send something somewhere, the discretion to randomly ask for additional documentation, additional papers, which are just not required. unless we bring about these kind of changes, I think we won't have a sustainable long-term solution to this issue.
All right, I'm also being told Madhav Bhandari joins us now. He is a representative and the spokesperson of the state government in the BJP. Madhav Bhandari, if you've heard the conversation so far, the question is accountability at the local levels of government, accountability in the municipal corporations. Is there something that can be done from the bottom up to start the cleaning process? Because it does seem like our panelists are fairly happy with what's happening on the top. What is the government doing right now to clean up the process of approvals, to clean up the process at the local level of government?
See, for the first time in last many years, our Anti-Corruption Bureau is working proactively, and this time within a span of simple 1 year, it has recorded nearly 1000 cases and it has taken action. So the message is very loud and clear, and government is not going to tolerate anything. Government is not talking any nonsense, and we are serious about it, and we are trying to clean the system.
All right, we're going to take a very quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about the ease of doing business and what it does finally to the price of homes that you and I buy. That's on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Property Guide. Thank you for staying with us. Hashtag cut red tape. If you have an opinion about what's going on, about what the government should do to help the ease of doing business, tweet it out with that hashtag. Madhav Bhandari, I'm going to come to you. The state of Maharashtra, according to the World Bank, rates number 8 when it comes to the ease of doing business. I know it's not a rating that the government is particularly happy with. What are you doing right now to solve the problems on the ground among local governments, to make people in local government more accountable? What's going on?
We are working on such things that we are curtailing the permits and licenses. We are trying to bring down the papers also, the number of papers, and we are sure that within few months there will be a very effective and fast system in our hands.
I want to ask you to be a little more specific there, Mr. Bhandari. When you say a few months, can you give me a timeline that you're looking at?
Within few months, I can tell you that that for sure. And let me tell you that we had done away with many hurdles regarding the environmental clearances. That is very much easy now, and we are trying to do away with other hurdles also.
I mean, that's very heartening information, but unfortunately I like specifics. You're going to have to give me a more specific timeline. A few months is not a very specific timeline.
We are trying very hard, and we try to create this system within a very short span.
Okay, a few months, trying very hard, a short span of time. Pawan Irani, would that be enough for you?
See, the key issue out here, Shaina, and Mr. Madhav Bhandari, is this, that a developer gets squeezed at both the sides. No project today, especially in the city of Mumbai, is anywhere, less than 150 to 200 crores of investment by a developer through his banks. And when a project gets delayed, the interest on this is coming on to the developer. That aside, a developer likes to, build a brand by saying that I'll give you possession a particular time frame, and this is what I'm building for you. But halfway along the way, if his project is stalled due to some kind of new ruling that's come out, which goes retrospective in effect, and the people down the line aren't aware of how the implementation takes place, we get squeezed at both the ends. And that is why you see a lot of frustration, and that may be one of the key reasons why my fellow developer, my president of MCHI Credai Thane, took his life. Because he was squeezed, A, by the financial institutions, which would be a stress he could have handled, but more so by the fact that his reputation was getting tarnished every single day. That's why I said incremental changes aren't acceptable anymore. I would feel if you want to see a brighter tomorrow, you need to make some major changes and bring them out with a lot of gusto. The housing policy, for one, is something that we can see much faster. It's being drafted, I think, sometime in March or April, and it's been circulating in the government. I'll be very happy to see the new housing policy in the new avatar that it comes in, to be able to provide the people of this city and across Maharashtra homes at prices that, if the housing policy permits, to bring down certain charges, etc., might see homes at even a lower cost.
Sharansi, do you want to respond to that? There are a couple of the main points that you need to look at.
Yeah. I think one point that Baman made, I'd like to share, because the anxiety is not just at his end, it is at the end of the government as well, because we want to showcase what we have done for the state of Maharashtra and the speed at which we have worked, and projects where developers, people who have created infrastructure have been able to complete, because that showcases our political will as well. So I think you must understand that it is both ways. You talked about the housing policy. Yes, from March, we asked a lot of people to give in their inputs and their suggestions, and that's why I keep talking about this proactiveness, because this kind of input will help to create a policy that works for all of you and for the government as well. I want to ask, how many of you all have actually used a right to services? When you have questions where, say, an officer or a department is not providing you with what they are due to do as in their job, have you availed of this right to services? You talked about how right to information and has been misused, but right to services is a way to combat so many of the problems that you have in completing a project.
Let me get
and
the
likewise,
answer. Let me get the answer to that question, Sana. Let's find out how many of the three builders who are on the panel right now, Baman, Dharmesh and Rohit, how many of you have used the service of right to services?
First and foremost, Faye, I don't believe
that matter, even
the approval-related services have actually been notified. There's many others which have been done, but those which are pertaining to the approval process for real estate development haven't really been notified as yet. So that's one. Two is, I think there's a serious concern about complaining. I think that we don't have a culture of holding officers, errant officers accountable, and the fear is if we complain, your file is delayed for another 6 months. We don't have a single case where officers have been held accountable for their errant actions, and we don't. The commissioners, the senior officers, are aware of who are the errant officers down the line. They are aware of who are the blackmailers, and yet there's no action that's taken against them.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rohit saying So Rohit saying he has used the service, but he hasn't seen any action on the ground. Dharmesh, do you want to add to that before I take it back to Saina and to Madhav?
I think going back to one of the points, again, if you want development in this space, we appreciate that new policies will have to come in. One of the points that we have made time and again, we mentioned that today as well, was that every new policy should come with a transition policy, so that the ongoing work does not get disturbed. That will take away a lot of pain of projects caught in between two policies. And second was that the ease of doing business. I think Mumbai under Mr. Ajay Mehta has put in fantastic effort on that. And one of our requests and submission was that the entire Maharashtra should pick up the Mumbai model and implement the ease of doing business effort that has gone into Mumbai.
All right.
That's
so
a
Mumbai.
Good suggestion.
All right. So Rohit wants to come in. Rohit, take up from here the fact that in Mumbai we actually have a fairly good system of the ease of doing business. Why can't that system be replicated across other municipal areas? Rohit, respond to what business is like in Pune at this point.
Actually, Faye, I'd like to bring one point to Shaina's notice. Across the state, the fine for occupying your home, which is sanctioned legally, but without the occupancy certificate in different cities and towns, varies from rupees 5,000 per apartment to 10,000. That's the fine. In Pune, for a 2-bedroom apartment, the same fine is about 5 lakhs of rupees. Okay. Now, this situation, this is an absurd situation, because the municipal corporation needs money. Okay. If they delay giving you the occupancy certificate and frustrate the developer into actually handing over the possession, because the developer is under tremendous pressure, once the developer is forced into giving the possession to the end customer, the municipal corporation then can come in and apply a fine in the crores of rupees to the developer. Now, this kind of a system, which is loaded purely in favor of the municipal corporation, has got to change. And I can tell you this, there hasn't been a single case, not one case, where the municipal corporation has accepted that the delay came at their end and they're fining developers. This one-sided approach has got to stop, and the right to services is not going to solve this kind of a problem.
Sana, do you want to respond to that?
I just want to ask if anyone has also used Aple Sarkar as a forum, because this is something where if somebody like Rohit writes, I'm sure if he narrates exactly what he said on your television channel, he will have a reply from the government suggesting what can be a solution. I do concede that once you have the housing policy in place, there will be a lot of systematic failures or lacunas which are addressed. And the ones which are left out, you have forums such as Aple Sarkar to express your viewpoint, express with examples of what has transpired, what is happening, and for the government and the technocrats and bureaucrats to respond. And I do concede that yes, there could be a lot of problems when it comes working down at the grassroots, but it's important also to expose the areas and the people who are being the thorns in the line to progress, because that is the only way. It's unfortunate that public seems to think that, oh, we will be targeted. If you do no wrong, you must have the courage of conviction to speak.
True, I agree with that. I mean, thank you, Shaina, for sharing about the Aple Sarkar. And we are very actively looking forward to the right to services being provided to the real estate part of the business. And I must say, this for the leadership, our Chief Minister leads from the front, and that is really a commendable, commendable value for people like me who see him leading from the front. And I'd like more and more leaders to lead from the front like he does.
All right, I want a quick response also from Madhav Bhandari. Madhav, tell us right now, is there a commitment that we can get from the state government to look into these issues and to give us an update on this show about the housing policy, about the development plan of Mumbai? Can we expect regular updates from you?
Yes, it's in process, and one thing we have to keep in mind that we have inherited a very bad legacy of the very bad government. There are many issues and there are many problems which we have inherited, and we have to repair those things. We are working very hard, and within next few days we can have some good news with us, and I think things are changing, days are changing.
I want closing remarks from all of our panelists on the one thing that each of you think can be done right now to solve these problems, so we don't have to meet under these circumstances the next time when someone has been forced to take their lives. If you were to just pinpoint one thing that has to be looked at immediately, what would that be? I want to start with Dharmesh Jain. Dharmesh, what would you put on that list?
Ease of doing business being implemented in every ULB of Maharashtra.
Boman?
I think setting a timeline for whatever project we take up, whether it's 30 days or 60 days, and then having someone as high up as the CM monitoring it himself.
Rohit Gera?
Please eliminate political involvement from the entire approval process. There is absolutely no need for anybody to have access to a developer's file even before the building inspector gets a chance to assess and check those plans. Today, those copies of those plans are available outside with the blackmailers before it's even studied by the authorities. We must eliminate this kind of involvement from the approval process.
All right, eliminate political involvement. Saina and see, you're allowed to also make a demand from the other panelists. What would you like them to do for their bit to meet you midway and make sure that we can achieve something?
I think dialogue with us, and don't believe that the government is separate, because the government wants development as much as you do. We want the state from number 8 to go back to number 1 where it was. It's absolutely sad that Maharashtra in the past 15 years has come down in every respect, and development with low-cost housing infrastructure is a dream of our Honorable Chief Minister and Prime Minister, and I think that for it to be absolutely realized, there has to be a partnership where the developers who are investing this kind of money are supported by the government, and the government that wants to realize all of this during our tenure is supported by this manpower.
Clearer rules and regulations that are stable and remain stable through the course of a project. faster permissions and no political involvement with permissions whatsoever. That's what our panelists want, and the government of Maharashtra promising that it will continue a dialogue, it will continue to work on making the ease of doing business more accessible and more enhanced in the state. But this is what I'm going to do. Since China has said a platform of Aapne Sarkar is available to all of us to make our complaints to the government if we feel at some point we're being denied services, I'm going to ask all of the three developers on the panel, Dharmesh Jain, Pawan Irani and Rohit Khera, to file complaints on Aapne Sarkar on any sort of problems they're having right now, so we can track it right here on this show. And Shaina, we will come back to you with updates. We'll reconvene this exact same panel after a couple of weeks to find out how much progress we've got from Aapne Sarkar. That website is on your screen right now. If you're watching at home and you have a problem with a service you expect from the government, feel free to log on and file a complaint as well and get in touch with us on the update, and we'll find out if this actually works and if the government is doing enough to ease out the processes that its citizens and businesses need in order to function in this state. I'm going to thank all of our guests for joining us on the show. If you have an opinion about what you heard on this show, tweet it out, #CutRedTape. Thanks for watching.